Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Know the Traitors podcast. Here today to talk about Season 2, Episode 3 of Traitors Canada. A very fun episode. I cannot wait to break things down. I'm, of course, your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya and McKeely, ready for y'all. And with me, as always, is my lovely co-host for Traitors Canada, the one, nay, the only, Brian Eleanor Scally. Scally, how you doing?
I'm doing so good, Pooya. I'm so excited to talk about this episode of The Traitors. Really a strong episode. Glad to be sitting up here in the conclave so we get to break it all down.
Yes, shout out to Mel B from last year, who did DM me to also be like, hey, just so you know, for Canada, it's the conclave. And then this episode only further confirms it. So thank you for that. We are not going to mess that up anymore with everybody doing their own iterations of what the Traitors Tower conclave turret is. Well, we'll see. Scally, there's a lot to talk about here, but at the top of the episode, of course, the blondes have been taken out, Scally. We're taking the blonde people out of the show, apparently.
I know. One of the facts was, quote unquote, there had been 6 blondes at the start of the show, and it's easy to forget that there were many because they are all going home one by one.
Yeah, we started with 3. We're left with 1 by the end of this episode. So we're going to be getting our exit interviews in, of course, with both, spoiler alert, Nichelle and Mary Jo this week. So if you have any questions for them, make sure to add us on socials, at Pooyaism on Twitter, at Brian_Scally on Twitter for Scally. Let us know what you want us to ask them. Scally, last week, we got to this point where Michael John was so adamant, we are not going to leave this conclave unless we get Gale out of this manor. What happened?
They're still in the conclave. They never left, apparently, because Gale's still here. I guess shortly after that, they just waved off Michael John and are like, okay, now what are we actually doing? That was apparently never going anywhere.
Yeah, it doesn't end up holding any ground, which I knew was going to be the case because I was like, Netta and Kira are not going to let this happen. This is someone they feel good with. They're not going to let you have your way, especially once you basically make it seem like you're going to strong arm them. That ain't going to happen. And obviously, Michael John buckles, and we do end up having Nichelle murdered here, which I'm not mad at. There's a great pick by the Traitors here.
Yeah. And people immediately are like, oh, it's because they could tell. She'll be able to read people's faces. She's going to be able to pick up on things. So no one's really even questioning it or reading into it too much. And I think that's honestly probably even better because they're not going to like accidentally stumble on you for the wrong reasons as to why Nichelle was murdered. So just like a pick that people seem to accept pretty easily.
Yeah, I feel like this is the right now the Traitors' MO is very evident to me, which is let's take out people who are basically cleared for a lot of people off the board as confirmed faithful, people who are not making any waves. And Nichelle's a good one because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, you know what? Former officer could read people. That's something they wouldn't want around. So that makes sense. So it doesn't really ruffle any feathers. It makes sense logically. And also, and for this season, I cannot stress this enough, if you are not causing chaos, you are not staying in that house.
Yeah. When you have a cast that is about 25 unhinged people, I think being the one stable force is not necessarily going to be the winning strategy right now.
Nah, being hinged is not a good thing here whatsoever. Not even at all. And it's the funniest thing to me. So we gotta, I'm going to try and keep some kind of a semblance of an order here, but we're going to bounce around quite a bit. We already, from the beginning, we see people coming into breakfast and there's a lot of agendas being put out there. We see Dylan talking about how he wants Mike gone tonight. Mike, who of course is the true crime podcaster that has, I guess, shot himself in the foot somewhere along the line, or could just be seen as a useless faithful, unfortunately for him.
I love that there was like 7 people's names thrown around in the last episode, and none of them are even barely brought up in this one. Everyone's already moved past them. We have a bet on like who out of the names that seem to be in the most danger could make it the furthest in the season. They could be the final 5. Like, we don't know. These people very much seem to have gone back under the radar, at least in the short while. People are looking for bigger fish to fry at this moment.
Yeah, it's been incredible to see through 3 episodes where I feel like there's no through line to follow. I think the thing that makes the most sense is the Traitors' decisions. I made a prediction right before they went to the conclave, and that person ends up on the short list, and I feel like that person's going to go out next, but we can talk about it when we get there. But everything else is just all over the map. Like, I feel like people are giving a name, they're following a name, and then the next second they've switched up on that decision, their own decision.
Yeah, and I kind of think that's how it probably should be in most cases. If people are playing self-interested, there shouldn't be this large groupthink. And so where people are going ahead and playing and spinning their theories, I don't know it's because they're actually enacting optimal gameplay, but I think this is probably closer to what it looks like if more people are playing correctly.
Yeah, I mean, in the preseason, when I interviewed Corinne, she mentioned when I brought up loving a delusional faithful, she's like, you're going to love this season. And I thought, well, I feel like you would say that regardless, maybe, but also I'm very excited to see it. And my God, listen, Corinne is the most honest person on the planet because she nailed it with this cast. It is so far 3 episodes in. This might be the most chaotic group of faithfuls we've ever seen on any of the iterations. I have to think about it, but
I hope no one ever has a coherent thought again on the show.
it's better.
It is so funny to just watch them completely in a tailspin.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the graphic up as well at this point, just so because we're gonna talk about a lot of people. People might not have names to faces. But so we mentioned Dylan wanting Mike gone at breakfast. We also saw Lauren mentioning Michael John's not off the list for her. We did see Mary Jo throw Kevin under the bus to Enoch of all people. When I tell you none of these names come up at the round table, would you believe me? Would you believe me?
Yeah, this is still like the hangover of yesterday. You know, we're still expecting the same people. And what's interesting to me is they're even theorizing the people who were the most suspicious might be the ones murdered. That is what is very curious to me about this season. It's like, oh, well, I think Mike be a traitor. Mike might be a traitor. So I think he's probably to get murdered tonight. Like, oh, okay, sure. I don't know what the logic is for everyone here, but I'm enjoying it.
I really liked seeing Netta's confessional on the way to breakfast, how she mentioned she was hyping herself up to come off as a faithful the entire time while waiting to come in, to the point where her hands are clammy, like she's just relieved to be in there. That is the perfect get into character before you walk in is the delightful way to go about it.
Yeah. Are we sure that's not what Michael John was doing with his clammy hands and shaky voice?
Michael John. Okay, here's the thing, Scally. On that note, we do see a little scene where Michael John is, I don't remember who he was talking to, but he's like, Nichelle is gone. He's like, yeah, you know, if she was a traitor, she had me fooled.
I'm obsessed. I love it so much.
Yeah, was it Dylan? Was like, yeah, you cannot take yourself out of the game as a traitor here. That is not how this works.
She's literally the only confirmed person that we're talking about right now that can literally not be a traitor. He's like, look, I don't know. It seems like you guys know more than me. Like, okay.
It's so funny because to me there's so many red flags with Michael John. There's so many tells that I feel like I'm noticing. I mean, part of it could be the confirmation bias of already knowing, but I think the other side of the coin for me is that are there just too many things to the point where people just are going to start discounting him because he's just a faithful and he's just not picking things up, and also or he's playing it up so that he's not murdered? Like, are we gonna get to that point with this cast? I feel like anything's possible.
I do think there's a world in which he could go back under the radar, similar to a couple other people, where it's almost like the target gets too big. But I think more likely some of the savvy players, I would say, like, if Neto was not a traitor, I could see her looking at Michael John and being like, what's the point in getting him out? Like, they're just going to replace him, and I don't want him replaced. Like, I want him
Mhm.
to stick around. So I do think there are a number of savvy players on this cast that could be like, and we'll deal with him later. Let's cozy up to him now and give him reason not to murder us, because they're not privy to it, but we saw how hard he goes for what he wants in the conclave.
Yeah, we are seeing this is now 3 weeks in a row, I feel like, where we're getting our weekly dose of Hinoc telling somebody Kira is not a traitor. There is no way this woman is a traitor. Do you think we're getting set up for Hinoc completely getting a blindside on when Kira goes, or if Kira goes and is confirmed traitor at that point?
Ooh, that would be very fun. I love a blindside, and I would be sad to see either of these two have their downfall, but for it to be at the hands of the other would be quite fun.
I would love it as well. Now, there's another character that has been pulling up in the last 2 episodes, and that is the rise of Jasmine, who is probably the most fascinating person for me on this cast right now, and B, always at an 11 out of 10 on energy. And I don't know why. I don't know why where's this fire coming from? But Jasmine doesn't say anything with like a chill demeanor at all. Always with energy.
I love it so much. I love that she is 100% in her convictions. I'm operating with facts and am never as sure of anything as Jasmine seems to be, with literally zero information. So I wish I was as confident as she was in my daily life.
I could never be. I would love to be, but I could never be. This level of confidence not found on my radar. I really did feel like the show did a good job tonight of showing us the 3 traitors, not necessarily all that much, but in very clear moments where they are doing a good job of covering their tracks and going undetected. We've seen both Netta and Kira get brought up in a group in front of Michael John as, yep, nope, they're absolutely not traitors. They're both super clear to us.
Yeah. And I think, to give Michael John his props, did a good job of not throwing suspicion onto them, because in all of the times that he has to defend himself, we are constantly told that people are not believing his lies, that they are catching him and seeing that he's super nervous. But when he's talking about Kira and Netta, he does seem to hold it together well enough that it doesn't cast further doubt on them.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's the thing is right now, if everyone is saying they're clear and a lot of people are looking at you as potentially sus, I feel like the mistake would be to try and change that narrative solo and be like, actually, I think they are bad too. Because right now, all that would, like, if you're already on your way out, let's say, all that's going to do is maybe have one person be like, oh, was that a traitor on traitor accusation? But I don't think it's going to save you any. Like, I don't think it's going to buy you time, because the more likely outcome actually would be they'd be like, no, they're clearly faithful. What are you doing? You need to go.
Yeah. I mean, if I was either Kira or Netta, I would be more worried that honestly he would like defend me too aggressively and would just be like,
no,
I agree. I also 100% that Kira never could be a traitor. I look in her eyes and I would beat me. So he's not doing that. So I think they should feel pretty lucky and maybe happy about it.
We also, this was the beginning of us seeing, so at the breakfast we see a scene where Mary Jo brings up Kevin's name to Hinoc, and from there on Hinoc is like, you know what, not only is that nonsense, Mary Jo is the traitor. And we see him tell other people the same thing, that he thinks Mary Jo is the traitor. And he literally says, when she gets up there and says she's a traitor, I just want to thank you from you guys. That's all I'm asking for. I'm a humble man with humble requests. Just say thanks.
That is very generous. I don't need anything but a thank you. In fact, we see it again. I am so confident that if she is not a traitor, you can vote me out next. I'm 100% confident that it is Mary Jo.
I don't care if I am 1000% that someone is a traitor and I'm right. I will never volunteer yourself to be voted out if you're wrong. On that 1% chance you're wrong. Because what's the point? What are you doing?
No. And you're someone who has good reads in these games. I never do. Truly cannot imagine what it's like to feel so confident because they're all betting their lives willy-nilly.
See, I play these games. I've been told I have decent reads. Even at my best, I'm always like, I think so. I'm not sure, but I think it is this based on these 5 things that I've found. But maybe because I never want to be caught looking a fool. Never. I don't care how good the read is. I'm not looking to be celebrated. I'm just trying to not look stupid. That's like the main that matters to me more than looking like a genius, honestly.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that this cast does not necessarily have that same worry at every corners because they are very willing to throw out names, even if it is only like a 5% chance that they're right.
Exactly. Now, I feel like where do you want to go next here?
Ooh, I would like to honestly, let's talk about Prettium's favorite part of the week and talk about the mission.
All right, we come to the Palladium's Perch here to talk about the latest mission. We got, Scout, there's a bunch of barbed wire, there's a minefield. The mission's relatively simple. They've got people in pairs. They're all the mines in the battleground or field or whatever you want to call it have a statement on them. The statement is either true or false. If you pick the correct statement within the allotted time and you stand over it and you unveil it and it's true, boom, $1,000 added to the prize pot. Good stuff. If you're wrong, a explosion will happen in front of your face. If it's the most clear wrong answer, shields are available, but it has to be actively it's the dumbest answer. That's the one that's going to have 2 shields in it for 1 lucky pair.
Yeah. And so I did think it was funny. They give a shout out to Claudia, the host of the UK version here. I was very appreciative of that. Kareen, very funny with the like, what the hell face that she put on. So, I think Canada usually is one to have their own unique missions on the show. And this one, I feel like we have seen versions of on other series, but it is one that I enjoy a little more. So I'm not mad at it.
I'm not mad at it either. I really did enjoy also that they had very clear traitor related statements of, okay, there are 2. The traitor's cloak is this color, because more often than not, no one's going to pick those. Like, you're not picking those unless you run out of time or, and hear me out, everyone just accepts that you've watched the show before and you can maybe get away with being like it's from the show. I've seen it before.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily feel confident in either, but do you feel like by stepping on those mines, you actually are like almost saying, I'm not a traitor, because why would I take this easy, like exposing myself? Why would I ever take this risk if I actually was the traitor?
That's a good point. But at the end of the day, especially if you have recognized the cast you're with, you wouldn't risk it. If I'm with this cast, I'm not going near that. Even if I'm the most faithful to have ever faithfuled, I'm not risking it. But also, if you're someone like a Michael John, that logic won't work for you, because I think all that would do is just make people more suspect of you. So there's like not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. Lauren did end up picking that one with the cloaks, I believe, and it was Lauren and Dylan took the traitors' capes are black and got that correct. Got $1,000 out of the prize pot. But I feel like it depends on the person, Scally.
For me, I know that I would not really read into it unless it was confirmation bias, in which case I'd be like, I'm so smart. But otherwise, I would really not factor it all that much. But my problem is if I pick it and there is that one person who, in my opinion, might not be thinking the most logically and they really lock in on me, I don't know how to argue with that person anymore. We don't have the same thought process, and that is the hardest like bomb for me to diffuse. So I'm not taking the risk.
No, neither am I. Again, I'm a lot more content in the situation like this, whether I'm traitor or faithful, to just survive it and not have anyone have my name in their mouth, whether or not we make money, because that's the ideal for my own personal selfish reasons.
Yeah. For sure. I thought it was funny that Nick really wants to be safe, and so he was going to pick Pac-Man, but Pac-Man's injured, so he go with Mike. It's like, was there much of a difference? Was this also like a huge problem? I don't know why this had to be highlighted.
I don't know. Was his concern that Pac-Man is going to be slow to like the mines they pick? Because it looked like they had enough time to at least look at 2 or 3 mines before they picked one.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. Was this just the only moment that they had to show of Pac-Man on the show? Essentially, it's like there's nothing else to show, guys. Here, I really don't
entirely
understand.
possible, man. I said earlier that I had a name flag up for me, and then it got brought up in the short list. Pac-Man is the person. I think Pac-Man's the one going this next episode, just because of the fact that his name's not coming up all that much. He's practically cleared as a faithful. There's no suspicion. He's not in any conflict, which we'll talk about, but I think that is the name of the game this season. You want conflict to stay in. I just don't see where his game goes.
Yeah, I do hate to generally lose people before we get to know them on the show, but maybe it is true to the edit. All of these people are huge personalities, and that is specifically why they are being kept in. And it's just where the cards fall.
Exactly. And we've seen other seasons where speaking too much will get you murdered. And this season, it feels like speaking a little too less might be the reason you get murdered. And that would be unfortunate for a player like Pac-Man here. Nothing else really for me to flag up from the mission here. The one thing was obviously Lauren and Dylan secure the shields, which I'll remember to add to the graphic in the future for that episode. But they're safe from getting murdered overnight, so they can sleep safe at the very least. Everyone else, fair game. I really did like, I will say, we got to hear Netta explain her reasons for grouping up with Lori for this challenge. Number one, she's gonna come off, stronger in this challenge. Feels like Lori's a little bit weaker, which I think definitely played out. And also kind of let Lori make the picks. But the main thing for me, Scally, she's clearly bonding with Lori in plain sight. And having a player like Lori, a faithful who no one's talking about, potentially back you later on, I think is good, especially if Lori is someone who gets accused, let's say, at any point and goes. I think that's not a bad shout for Netta to have under her wing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do like the move of cozying up to a very obvious faithful, because then whether they get taken out at a round table and they had been backing you the whole season, or oops, they go after a meeting to the conclave, and why would I ever do it? That's my closest ally. I definitely like this move from Netta.
Yeah, I do not hate it at all, especially because I feel like we've seen Kira have quite a few connections. We had not been seeing a lot of where Netta's connections lie, and this is the first instance that I can think of outside of Gale that Netta has a couple people that she's recruiting on the low as well, which I do appreciate. So, Scally, post mission, first of all, did you notice that they wrapped all the car seats in plastic to make sure that none of the grime from the mines got to them?
It's a good move. Definitely should be done. Old people home style, put plastic all over the furniture because these people were gross.
Yeah, they're like, the sponsors are not going to love it if our cars get messy and dirty here. Now, in the cars, though, we again see Hinoc mention Kira's not a traitor. There's no way Kira's a traitor. Scally, I like Netta and Kira so much. I want them both. I mean, in an ideal world, they both make it to the end. They both win that money. However, the one benefit to Kira leaving, the reaction from Hinoc will break him, and that'll be very fun television for me.
Yeah, I do love when someone gets voted out and half of the house is just so convinced that it's the wrong move, but it was the quote unquote right move at the same time. They get out a traitor. That reaction is very fun, but I don't want Kira to go home this early. Like, I don't know if I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
No, I would like for right now, I would like if all the traitors stay in as long as possible because they're all very entertaining in their own ways. So we got to talk about Mary Jo a little bit here. What I love this mission for the reasons you mentioned. The statements can be fun. It's fun to see people try and justify the reasons they pick stuff. One of the mines, though, I had an issue with. Scally, in what world is a mine that says someone is not who they say they are a good mine to have in here? Like, and also, in what world are we supposed to believe that anybody was like, oh my God, that is brand new information, like Mary Jo was saying.
Yeah, I mean, they also were putting down like Nichelle as a lawyer. Imagine that she actually was lying about being a former police officer and she's a lawyer and they expose it during the mission. Like,
I imagine that wouldn't have been there if she
no.
was and was in the game. I think her being out of the game lets them keep it, but that would have been so funny.
I think so too. But I mean, for me, I don't think this was as blatant as two people in the game are related or anything of the sort. Like anyone could just be lying about their job or I don't know, their name for some stupid reason or their age or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. I don't think this was so clearly set up to sabotage Nick and Kira. People did theorize that two people could be related, but I think that whether this mine had been there or not, it's a twist that we've seen in a couple different iterations of the Traitors, that people knew each other before coming in. And I think it's something that, like many Big Brother seasons, who's the twin twist? You're going to get talk about it.
For sure. Something I would like to talk about with you, though, Scally, is that this was, I feel like, the first episode where we really get to meet a brand new player. And that player's name is Trana. Trana and Netta have a conversation that I thought was very interesting, especially because of the trajectory of Trana's game over the rest of the episode. Trana mentioned to Netta, I'm worried because there's no one suspicious of me at all. I'm worried of getting murdered. And I've done a good job of just kind of being silent and good. By the end of the episode, Trana's in the thick of this war on Kirkland.
Yeah. Trana, Melinda, and Kirkland all in this three-way battle. Very fun with some messy queers on the show. I do enjoy, but I think it is so funny to go from I am worried I'm going to get voted out because I'm not involved in anything to what I currently have slated as the biggest rivalry on the show between the three of them.
Easily. There's no competition. And Jasmine's trying to get in on it too. There could be like a fourth person in this feud.
Yes. So I am very happy. This is another one where, and Kirkland even later says it, like, what the hell is Melinda doing? If I go home, her game is over. I need everyone involved in this to stay in for as long as possible. If this keeps them safe from murder, like, thank God, genius plan. I'm going to pretend you're all in on it because I love it.
Yeah, which also another highlight for me, Netta is clearly working with Trana and they both talk about how they're not suspicious of each other. Yet another name for Netta to hold on to, which I think is great. Now let's talk about Enoch again and this impending feud with Mary Jo that's brewing. Relatively one-sided, mind you, up until this point, because I think Mary Jo was clearly trying to work with Enoch, mentions Kevin's name. That doesn't go well to Enoch, to the point where I feel like Mary Jo realized this earlier, Scally, and tried to make an alliance with Kevin and Enoch by talking to Kevin directly.
Oh, what a great trio in the game they could be. Mary Jo, Enoch, and Kevin. Right after she said that she definitely knows he's a traitor at breakfast. So I understand why maybe the behavior looked a little questionable. Why are you so sure that he is a traitor? And then within 30 minutes trying to form a very close alliance. I mean, not the worst strategy in the world in the grand scheme of things, but you need to make sure that the people you are telling this to are on the same page about that. And it does not look like Enoch was.
Yeah, well, and we could have had a world where they get together and like, listen, this is good for our game if we're at each other. As long as we don't push it too hard and vote each other out, we can keep each other safe by doing this. We've seen a semblance of this strategy play out on other seasons in the past, where at least it can bypass a couple banishments potentially. But that was never to be, because Enoch didn't buy anything Mary Jo was selling from the minute Mary Jo said Kevin's name.
I would love so much for someone to, like, let's say a Mary Jo. It could be, another duo in a season where she's coming up to Enoch and Kevin and like, look, I know one of you is a traitor. It's fine. I want to be in a final three. Like, then you won't murder me. I won't vote you out. It's like, we're not traitors. Like, sure, fine. Say whatever you got to say. It's just three faithfuls all pointing the finger at each other, where they managed to actually somehow form an alliance, mistakenly thinking that there's a traitor amongst them.
I think what didn't help Mary Jo's case with Enoch is that Enoch brought this up a couple times, that Mary Jo was bringing up I'm not a traitor way too much. Kind of like you protested a little too much on it to the point where now I think you are. And it sounds like based on what he was claiming, it was kind of an unprompted thing. It's like, oh, another drink? No, I'm good. Also, not a traitor. But that's the vibe I got with what he was saying. That was coming up a little too much inorganically, maybe.
It's such a hard balance because we've seen so many people who it's like, oh, you were accused or your name came up or we all said we're not traitors and then you didn't say anything. So now I think you are and you just didn't want to get caught lying. It's like, okay, it is the hardest balance in the world. It does seem like Mary Jo was volunteering to clear her name at every opportunity and every conversation, at least that we saw. But that balance has so hard to strike.
It really is. I feel like it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't almost. Like if you don't claim you're not a traitor, then it's like, well, you never said you weren't a traitor. So you really this is the both the good and the bad with a format like the Traitors. There's no right way to really play that. The best case scenario is you figured out the type of person you're talking to and you play it correctly to them, but it's also the most entertaining thing for that reason.
Yeah. For me, it's the good. Like, I love that there is not a lot of currency in this game except for your word, and you need to be convincing of that, but also be approaching the right people. And Mary Jo, I think was approaching potentially a very good, a potential alliance for her, but was not convincing at all.
I felt like until we got to the round table, I think Mary Jo was doing a good job of trying to clean things up. We did see a moment where Enoch's sitting there with people and talking about how he's been getting close to Mary Jo. Things aren't adding up. There's too many times where she's been telling him she's not a traitor. And right as he's doing this, Mary Jo pulls up. And the way this man tried to pivot away from the conversation, like, yeah, and then I scraped, and then I fell. And Mike's like, yeah, me too. It's like, okay, this was very obvious. She picked up on it immediately.
I love when they're talking one-on-one and she's like, I just have to insist I'm not a traitor. He's like, yeah, but I think you are, and I just gotta say, you're a great traitor. It's like, well, you're bringing her name up like nonstop in week 3, so I guess she's not if she was a traitor. But also, it is very funny. There's no way to argue with someone who is just completely not willing to bend.
You're right, and part of me in the back of my head, I'm like, Enoch, if you think Mary Jo's the traitor, and Mary Jo just provided you with, like, I think Kevin's the traitor, but you think Mary Jo's the traitor, and Mary Jo clearly is trying to work with you, what if you just don't push to get rid of her? What if you keep her in your back pocket?
That would be so nice. Like, yeah, let her think that she has you. That is really the optimal strategy of the Traitors, but not seen implemented, at least in front of the scenes super often.
No, I feel like people will talk about it after the season of, like, maybe they were looking for their traitor angel and stuff like that. I feel like in New Zealand, we got a very much on the scenes conversation about it. But I feel like here, it was very clear Enoch was not even thinking about that at all. I think the nature of the game on the surface has always been faithful, good, traitor, bad. We find traitor, we get rid of traitor. But again, like you said earlier, I think the selfish game to play, because the Traitors are playing selfish. They're playing to go to the end and win that money and get all of you out. So you don't necessarily have to work with the remaining, 19 people. You can pick a select 3, 4, and then just kind of try and do whatever you can to be the individual standing at the end.
I mean, we say all the time, yeah, there are 3 traitors here, but there's also 22 other people that have to go home regardless of what their role in the game is.
Right.
So I don't care what they are. Like, I want an alliance. I would love a traitor angel protecting me, and that's all I care about. But most people are not playing the game that way.
Yeah, because I think ultimately, as a traitor, you can win solo. You cannot win as a solo unit on the Traitors as a faithful. At best, you can end with maybe 4 or 3. More often than not, probably 2. So you still got to get to that top 3, 4 position and focus on that more so than being the detective, especially if you end up being a loud and wrong detective. Real pause, Scally. Cedric is gone. Where is Cedric? He vanished.
Feel like I called this. Cedric dropping right off the radar. I am
Mhm.
sure he will poke his head back up. I do not believe that this man is going to stay down for long, but I think he got his warning. People literally were saying, like, this is a warning vote. Calm down. And calm he did.
He not only did he calm down, I feel like his name comes up at the end of the episode, but by association to Kirkland. Up until that point, I almost forgot Cedric was on the show, which is an incredible feat considering he was all over the first 2 episodes.
Yep. So I mean, look, for my TV product, I would love for Cedric to pop back up in many of the ways that he was in the first 2. But I think that this little bit of a break, we can get to know a couple of other people. Cedric can relax until he pops his head back up with some other wild theory.
Yeah. So going into this roundtable, we had Gail mentioning how she's positive Dylan is a traitor. We've had Mary Jo talk about how positive she is that Kevin is. Neither name comes up at this roundtable. We've had people saying they're sure it's Michael John, people that said we want to vote out Mike 100%. Scally, none of these names mattered.
It's so funny. Like, I know who it is. I'm going to convince everyone, but none of them were important enough, at least, to make the edit. This was a pretty quick roundtable, I will say, on what made it into the show, but there was a lot of there, even it's a short runtime.
Yeah, I feel like a lot can be said about the roundtable and how important it is to be the opening statement. We've seen a lot. We've seen traders take the opening statement to start to spin a narrative. We've seen people that have had their name come up do the same thing. We've seen people that are detectives ready to give you the smoking gun. In this instance, Scally, we had someone who knew their name was coming up and was kind of convinced they were out no matter what. In Mary Jo. Mary Jo opens up and says, we're not talking enough about death row. Remember that thing where 5 people volunteered to go up and one of them went home? We're not talking about it enough, in my opinion. Scally, a woman would not take Chris out. There's no way.
I mean, at least one presumably did. Unless this is the first all-male starting Traitors, I presume at least one woman did, in fact, take Chris out.
Not according to Mary Jo. But Mary Jo was doing, it kind of felt a little bit like, remember in US season 2 when Dan opens up that round table and starts doing a story of like, and then there's 2 left. And between these 2, I've been looking at this one. It really felt like she was whittling them down because she immediately was like, Dylan, I think you're bananas. You're not a traitor.
Yeah. It definitely did feel like a little bit Dan Giesling, which in every other context, in terms of gameplay, would be such a compliment. But yes, that specific roundtable is mixed in with a little dash of Larsa. Only a man would target other men. So
yes.
it does look like maybe USA 2 was Mary Jo's favorite season, but she uses this logic to narrow it down to either Hinoch or Kevin, but she also doesn't believe it's Hinoch, so it has to be Kevin.
Kevin can't wait in this instance. It has to be Kevin now, Scally. And obviously, Hinoch immediately jumps at the defense. Kevin also says there's no substance to what you're saying. And as of this moment, if you had stopped the episode to go grab a drink or something, you would have thought, okay, Mary Jo v. Kevin. One of them is going to be the one to go, but they're both going to get votes. And here comes Melinda.
I felt so justified finally with Melinda. I feel like I've been hyping her up, and here we go. This is just a peek of what I knew Melinda could do. Melinda sees that Mary Jo has made, I think, is a pretty big error in just turning it on the people who are accusing you rather than on people who will be more willing to vote for as a defense. But Melinda comes in to save the day and says, yeah, okay, well, I heard all of this about Mary Jo, but what about Kirkland?
Let's talk about Kirkland, said Melinda. And here's the thing. Melinda brought receipts. Melinda has points to make here, and it's not to do with death row whatsoever. In this instance, Melinda takes us back, turns the page to week 2, episode 2, day 2 for them, where I was there when you talked to Rebecca, and we had heard a little bit of inkling that people thought this could have been a rehearsal. This could have been a fake acting moment with talking to Rebecca about like, hey, I've heard your name or whatever. The other thing that was not discussed, Scally, was that Melinda said, I was startled when Dylan came in and how unfazed your reaction was, Kirkland, which then they do show a flashback. He doesn't look that unfazed. The clapping seemed a little, but the mouth was open. I felt like it was adequate phased.
I feel like this related to me on when I'm opening Christmas gifts and I'm like, should I like put on a big reaction? Because I'm appreciative and I'm surprised, but I'm not like a, oh my God person. Like, that's not me.
Okay, this is very relatable, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I need to speak to what you just said because I feel the same way when people are like singing happy birthday or like wishing you happy birthday. It's kind of like I thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, but I don't know if I don't give you a big enough reaction, will it seem like I'm ungrateful or like I'm not happy with it? And with gifts, it's very similar because I'm like, oh, that's sick. That can sound extremely fake, and I mean it's sick, but I'm not gonna like do a backflip. I'm not Nick at this minefield. I'm not gonna be able to pull that off. So it kind of always, I feel it's performative when I'm reacting to those things, even though I genuinely mean them.
Yeah. I mean, and especially for Melinda, who you could be like, Melinda, we are going to do a mission today. And she'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like every reaction is going to seem small by comparison, I guess. So
yeah,
I do think that's a factor as well.
I think also, honestly, not everybody reacts to things the same way. You know, everyone deals with things differently. Some people don't show their happiness at a 10. Some people hide their sorrows. Like, I think there's a lot of different ways to react to things. But I mean, in this manner, it is really and truly a pressure cooker, and you have nothing to go off of. Like you said, all that matters are words, and then all that matters are the actions that people are going to perceive things out of. And especially when Melinda says, I've not really talked to you, but I've been watching you like a hawk, and this is what I found. What's Kirkland's defense beside being like, no, that's wrong? There's nothing else you can say in that instance.
Melinda's like, I know in the challenge you were so confident in everything, and then you were pretending to not know it was called the conclave. And he's like, that never happened. Like, I don't know how to argue this because this isn't true. But Melinda is so sure of herself in every conversation she's having.
Absolutely. And I too would like to say, Melinda, I know this is after the season and everything, but you know, as of this episode, we were not sure whether it was called the conclave or not. I've been covering all the seasons, so listen, little grace for the names and words of things. But then what I did love was Mary Jo suddenly speaks up and goes, listen, I know it's my time to go. I know it's about to happen, but I gotta throw one thing out there. I don't want to play this type of game, but Kirkland, you're the one that told me people were coming after me tonight. And this put more fuel to the fire here. Now Kirkland is annoyed, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, it went as far as to feel like she was saying, I didn't want to accuse poor little Kevin, but the big, mean Kirkland made me do it. It's like, Mary Jo, where did this come from?
He did it. He told me to do it. I'm snitching.
To be honest, a better strategy. Throw Kirkland under the bus. Throw someone else under the bus who has sus on them. This was the correct strategy the whole time, whether it be Kirkland or a Mike or a Michael John or, you know, a Cedric, someone who's had their name brought up before. I think that seems like a much more sound strategy. Unfortunately, maybe a little too late.
I mean, at that point, it really felt like the tides had, like, Mary Jo's name was the first one everyone's thinking of. Kevin's name came up, immediately went away, but it was too late to have Kirkland's name get him thrown in the mix. So it was obvious where this was going to head. Some votes, I will say, though, we didn't receive a tertiary vote here. All the votes were either Mary Jo or Kirkland.
Yeah, it makes me think that, you know, as much as people said they were going to come in and convince people it was Dylan or some other name, I think we really focused on two people. I think this was a lot of the biggest characters in the house getting involved here and not leaving a lot of room to get off topic necessarily. So I enjoyed this. And Enoch jumping in to be like, oh, so you did prepare for this. You're saying Kirkland gave you a heads up and you did work this out. She's like, no. Like, okay, things. And that was it for Mary Jo with me. Is I just feel like maybe she didn't have the best targets in mind, but also I think was contradicting herself a little bit throughout the day.
I think the energy at the round table was very evident because on one hand, she came in out the gate, launched, ready to go, putting in a good fight, but then would also ad lib, but also I know I'm leaving, but also it's cool if I go, but also I understand. And it's like, pick a lane, pick one or the other. Either you really don't want to go or you're content with leaving, because all that did, I think, was make people feel like maybe it's a little bit wishy-washy slash, I mean, if you're already content with leaving, I'm just going to vote you and not deal with the consequences. And I think as we saw as much when she was about to exit and literally has nothing but nice things to say about everybody at that table before revealing that she is indeed a faithful.
Yeah, I do think that it's so hard because, as we always say, like, what do you say? How do you prove it? But Mary Jo does give what some traders tend to give of the like, oh, you can vote me out. You're gonna lose the game, but you can vote me out now. It's fine. And so, unfortunately, I don't know if it's the best defense.
No, we do see the votes play out here. Majority of the votes were Mary Jo. The one thing I want to note is of the traitors, Kira and Netta both voted out Mary Jo, and Michael John voted Kirkland. So keep that in the notepad for later. But my favorite part of the votes was when Mary Jo reveals her board to be Kirkland, there's this like pause and no one says anything. And then Kirkland's like, do you have anything to say? And she's like, yeah, you know you're lying.
This was so funny, and I love that. Like, yeah, call her out. Why'd you do it? Because allegedly, as it comes out, they were best friends in the house. So, like, why are you voting me now? Let's say it. Like, yeah, you know what? Defend your vote.
Yeah, we had so the votes for Kirkland. I'm missing one of them. But Michael John, Trana, Jasmine, and Melinda all vote Kirkland here. Everyone else votes Mary Jo. If I look at my notes, I'll see the one name that's missing.
Mary Jo herself.
Oh, is it? Yes,
she didn't vote for herself.
That would make. Oh no! I forgot about Mary Jo's. I'm missing one more then. That I'm
Mary
not
Jo,
seeing
Melinda,
on my
Jasmine,
list.
Trana, Michael John. Those were the 5 I also had, and then I had 14 on Mary Jo. So
Would the
definitely
math
a
make
lot
sense there?
I did not count it up, but let's
Don't matter.
you know, and either way, a very, very heavily skewed vote towards Mary Jo.
Yeah. So Mary Jo exits here, and you think, okay, well, the episode's done. They all had huge reactions, though, to Mary Jo not being a traitor. I don't know how they convinced themselves she was after what had just happened, but, you know, we move on. What's funny is that Melinda's shocked and says, I hope everyone is feeling a punch in the gut, because Melinda is like, I was voting for the traitor. Y'all didn't jump on Kirkland with me. And that is a problem. And I thought, okay, that's a fair confessional to have. And this is where Trana says, I declare the war. I am on the radar. You cannot kill me because I am on the radar as being allowed here. And just immediately also puts out his name, Kirkland's name out again.
Yeah. I mean, you have Melinda saying, if I turn up dead tomorrow, you know who did it. Which, like, I mean, I guess if Kirkland is a traitor, that's probably not going to happen. And they're also probably not going to kill you because they're going to want to frame Kirkland being too scared to do it also. So good strategy. And then you have Trana also calling the meeting to a complete stop, including Kareen is like, what is happening? Trana points out that when it became clear that Mary Jo was going, Kirkland gave a proud little nod to Cedric, like mission accomplished.
It was a look of mission accomplished, and they're like, no, it wasn't. like they're like, yeah, I feel like he, you know, Kirkland just survived the vote and was kind of like, phew, I made it. And Trana's like, absolutely not. No, that is not true. And that's so funny to me. And Netta has the best confessional of the night for me when she goes, this was the best roundtable to happen. Best for the traitors. And she's not wrong. This was an all-time poor episode for the faithfuls, but one of the best episodes we've seen for the traitors, because Kira and Netta have already been off everyone's radars, and now Michael John doesn't catch a single vote, and no one's talking about him as of right now.
Yeah, that is totally true. I do wonder if we could see this parlayed into him falling back under the radar. We've seen a bunch of other people start to lessen their targets after a couple weeks. So can Michael John have a similar trajectory? You know, it seems like everyone is taking their turn having their name on the radar. So I'd be worried for Netta and Kira, given they haven't come up yet.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I feel like Kira's been very vocal, especially with the Rebecca stuff, that I think she's been vocal enough that it could be good. And I think Netta, like she said in confessional as well, is a lot better in the one-on-one conversations. I think she's silently trying to make some maneuvers without being called out for being quiet or not talking.
Yeah.
And I think that's not a bad spot to be in. If you have 18 one-on-ones, that's not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, I mean, Kirkland was kind of called out for his love of the one-on-one rather than the group meeting, but I think Netta's doing enough of both.
I think the difference is I think a lot of Netta's conversations are little conversation. All right, now you share with me. Give me your thoughts. Oh, I agree with that, or oh no, I disagree with that, and you move on. Whereas Kirkland's like, see that person? They're coming for you,
Yeah.
and that's an issue for you. And I feel like that's a little bit more of a you can point to the source. Whereas with Netta, it's not really anything you can do, you know?
True. Yeah, I do think that maybe happening a little more out in the open as well. So, you know, there's some tact to all of this.
Well, you know what there is intact with? This aftermath of Kirkland getting, I can't think of a way to phrase it, but essentially getting buried in front of my eyes. Aftermath with Jasmine arguing with Kirkland. Kirkland's like literally at a point where he's like, I swear on this person, on what was it, my twin, like just begging him to like listen to me.
I thought he said
twin
his sister's. Yeah, I thought he
Sister.
said his sister's twin's life. Which I was like, okay,
sister's life, because your
apparently
sister's twin is also your sister.
I would take that to be the case. But I could have misheard also. You know, we had the one time through, but I thought that was interesting, and also for Lauren to be like, that is crazy if you're a traitor and you just swore on your family's life. So I wonder if that like really solidified things in Lauren's mind for Kirkland at least.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily know, because the thing is, when you play a game like this with friends or people you know, when people swear on stuff like that, it gets to be a lot more like, oh my god, that is like you would not do that for a game. But you don't know these people. You don't know what Kirkland's motives are. You can say whatever he wants to say, and I feel like that could be, which is why I don't think it carries as heavy of a weight as it would if you were playing amongst friends. Because when friends do it, I'm kind of like, why'd you do that? Now I don't want to like not listen to you, but also why are we doing this?
Yeah, I hate it. Frankly, if there was a way to rule it out,
Ban it.
I would prefer it, but I think it's too hard to control.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I'm fine if people lie on it. That is their own choice. But obviously, we know Kirkland is not, and so to see people after him just being yelled at about how he's a liar, people, maybe this could have saved him. I don't know.
Well, especially if like the confirmation bias is just seeping in, someone's just going to be like, wow, that was diabolical. Kirkland literally swore on his family. Who would do that and be lying? Like that couldn't be me. So it's not even exonerating him.
I could see people being like, Kirkland, why did you feel like it was so necessary to swear on your family? Is it because you're a traitor? Like, I think that any of this is a good possibility, but I also feel like not coming off completely unscathed in this is Cedric as well, where it seems like he pulls Traneth to the side and is like, it was just a look, I'm not going home tonight. She starts to talk. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, you pulled her.
So funny. Scally, I saw something on Twitter right as I was putting the tweet out. One of the contestants has tweeted something. Would you like us to talk about it here?
I trust your opinion if you think that it is the good move to be talking about.
I feel like I'm of two minds about it, because on one hand, it's drama and we like mess, so that's good. On the other, I feel like it almost makes me paint a picture of what the future is to come, and I don't want to rob viewers or listeners who are avoiding that to see it. So maybe we holster it and keep it for later. I'm potentially, you know, in the future exit interview, use it.
There we go. I would say, let's turn into a future week / exit interview. I would advise maybe Pooya, if you want to screenshot it, might be a good move.
I've already done that. I've already put it in my evidence folder. We're good to go.
Yeah. We are coming, as Melinda says, with receipts to the exit interviews.
Hell
so
yeah.
Excited for when that little teaser gets unveiled.
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I will talk about it when we go off the air. But everyone else, listen, I don't want you to feel like you're getting robbed of whatever is about to happen. Not that I think I got robbed, but we'll see. Anyway, so let's go to the conclave now to end this episode. Scally, what I did love was the Traitors go, Michael John, so yesterday you were dead set on Gail leaving. I saw you talking to her today. How do you feel about Gail? And Michael John was like, I'm gonna need one more day, which I was like, Michael John, you do realize they're not asking you if they can kill her here. She's not on the murder block. They're just asking you how you feel. So your true like assessment does not matter.
Literally obsessed that Michael John was like, I will quit the game if we don't get Gail out one night ago. And now they're like, how do you feel about Gail? It's like, can I please have one more night with her? Like, okay. You know what? Good work by Gail. Unknowingly worked her magic to make Michael John feel so like really second guess what was a terrible relationship in his mind to one that at least bears a second look at.
Yeah, and I think that though obviously with the meta right now, with the Traitors being let's get rid of the people who are just confirmed faithful or are quiet, I feel like Gail's number could come up soon. But if Gail strikes a friendship or some kind of a conversation with Michael John to the point where Michael John's like, well, I went from not having anybody, I have Gail. So if he's not going to bring up Gail, Netta and Kira already didn't want Gail to go. I think that can save Gail some time here amongst the silent ones.
Yeah, Gail's not someone who's necessarily going to become this big personality distracting target from what we've seen so far on the show, at least. But at a certain point, when you have too many of those people, it's like you can't leave too many, I don't know, floaters in the game. Like you got to leave some also the people who are like, it has to be believable that some people made it this far in the game because they're good at the game. And Gail could be that person.
Exactly. I feel like we're starting to, obviously 3 episodes in, we're about to have our 3rd murder of the season. I feel like we're about to start getting into the, all right, one of the loud people needs to get murdered territory, because while it's good to keep all these loud and wrong feuds around, I think you at some point need to start making people draw the conclusion of, well, this person was murdered because this person's the traitor, and they wanted to silence them. And I think that's the natural pivot moving forward. So if you survive the first 3 or 4 murders as a silent player, you might end up finding yourself to be in a good spot again for at least like a couple weeks before the next batch drops. So, or the next murder drops. So I don't hate this spot for Gail at all. But I will say in the next time on that we saw, I believe Jasmine is fighting with someone at the round table, and I think it's Gail on the receiving end, Scally. So maybe silent no more for Gail. We'll see.
Look, I can get on board. I'm excited. I am, always excited for Jasmine to be at a 10, regardless of who it's with. And if that sparring partner happens to be Gail, I have heard that, Gail's done quite a bit of sparring in her career. So I think it'll be fun.
Hey, listen, a wrestler through and through. Gail can throw down. So we see this short list that comes up. We've got Pac-Man on the short list. Kira brings up Hinox, says, listen, I know I have Hinox under my wing, but he definitely presents himself as a faithful. And they're like, yep, and people listen to him. So Hinox on the short list next to Pac-Man. And Netta did mention that, listen, she tells us, I threw Pac-Man's name out there because he's not a name that anyone's attached to. He's also kind of quiet. He's kind of confirmed faithful. It's an inoffensive name to put out there. Spot on. And then brings up Lori, who she says she feels good about, but doesn't want them to perceive that she has any attachment to Lori, which I think is perfect.
Yeah, definitely works out. She briefly also does like float Nick's name in the Traitors Tower, but it's like, people will look at him eventually. So I thought that was funny. If
Mhm.
almost like I was looking like, Kira, don't like give away the
Don't
reaction,
react.
don't
Mhm.
react to this. But the three choices I think make a ton of sense. I think Hinoch, not somebody that Kira necessarily wants out this early, but if I'm the other two, Hinoch was so focused on Mary Jo here and pretty like with some very good precision gets her removed from the game by a large majority this week. If I'm Netta or Michael John, I'm a little worried about if all of a sudden I am the name that Hinoch has in his mouth next week.
Right. And I almost feel like Kira's doing the same thing that Netta did by offering up Hinoch as like, we could do Hinoch. I'm not attached like that. I know I got control of him, but also here are points why he's good to go. So I feel like again, both Netta and Kira definitely setting up some good, not want to say traps, but kind of trying to keep that radar off of them, which I don't hate. I do think ultimately Kira's going to be able to keep Hinoch. Netta's going to be able to keep Lori, and I think Pac-Man is the one to go, but I could be wrong. We'll see.
I think that is the most likely. Think it's okay. I think that Pac-Man is someone who probably isn't going to get sussed very hard, isn't necessarily one of these like huge characters that's drawing a lot of attention either. But I just always, I don't know, it's a hard balance between leaving in people who are like believable as traitors, but also a little dangerous if they get set on you.
Right. And I feel like the one of the main reasons why I think Pac-Man is about to leave 3 episodes in, Pac-Man is supposedly injured and we don't even hear it from him. We don't even see this injury. Where did it come from? He's MIA.
Yeah, so I mean, could be a nice little let's keep the mission strong. Can't have somebody injured, but apparently, wasn't Mary Jo saying that potentially Kevin was injured too? So all these injuries going around.
What is happening over there in Canada? I don't know. But I also really like the point that was made about Nick and how apparently Nick has some mannerisms of his own, little too reserved, not really responding, not really speaking, contributing. So they're like, he'll end up eventually dropping on people's radars. And I would love to see if next week we see Kira kind of hitting Nick with the conversation a la Suri and Jared of like, hey, clean that up. Like, you need to contribute a little more. What are you doing?
Can Kira do so without tipping her hand about being a traitor, though?
Oh, that I just realized that would be pretty ridiculous if Kira was to do that.
I mean, she could just be like, oh, XYZ person brought up your name as a potential
Mhm.
traitor, or like whatever. Like,
Or
you're
like,
too quiet.
I mean, if they just do like a cheeky check-in at one point, and Kira's like, "So based off of last night's roundtable, I would say that you seem very quiet, and maybe you should speak up more." Now, obviously, you don't have a leg to stand on if Kira was also quiet that roundtable, so maybe you wait for like an opportune moment to drop something, or
Yeah.
if you're on the mission car ride back with people that you're not really working with, to kind of be like, Nick, this person brought you up, just so get him to
Yeah.
act up a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely can't hurt. I think like I trust Kira to have enough tact to get it done.
Mhm. Also, Aaron's on the show, right?
He had a little feature last week. How dare you?
Yeah, last week.
He was pictured with the what I'm flagging up as like a potential bro alliance. And I feel like we're getting a lot of Hinoch and Kevin on the show, but I feel like Aaron was in there along with one or two of the other guys at many scenes. So I do think it's worth some of the women to maybe focus their sights on this guys alliance.
I have a feeling it's not going to go anywhere. The vibe I'm getting is that Kirkland, I feel like he's on radar still already. Cedric is on radar. Kevin did mention after the banishment that the game begins for him now. Like he's starting to play, which I don't know what that looks like for Kevin. So I have a feeling that it's not going to go their way, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we shall see, but regardless, I am very very excited to see how the next murder and the next roundtable go. I feel like we are being set up with quite the cast of characters. I am I don't know, I'm excited to see Who falls off the deep end next, frankly?
Who falls off the deep end? And I know that I'm making a prediction on who gets murdered, but when I tell you I cannot have a single prediction of who gets banished, because Jasmine, very vocal right now. We got Kirkland in the line of fire. We have Cedric in the line of fire. Depending on what's going on with Gale, that could be a shout. Michael, John, and Mike still both had their names brought up at the start of this episode. Melinda and Tran are now in this feud with Kirkland. Literally, I would maybe feel the most comfortable to say the people I do not think will get banished, Scally, are Netta, Kira, Lori, Lauren, Nick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's hard because if I had like $1 million in credits to bet last week, I don't think I would have put a single dollar on Mary Jo as being the one to be banished this week.
No.
So you never know.
Yeah. So we shall see where all of that goes. Like we said at the start, we will be talking to both Nichelle and Mary Jo on the exits here. So if you have any questions for either that you want us to ask, add us both on Twitter at Pooyaism and at Brian_Scally. Scally, anything else before we wrap this one up and put a bow on it?
No, I'm excited to get to the exit interviews and find out just a little bit more about this round.
Yeah, I'm very keen. So far, I'll give Traitors Canada this. It's been a stellar season, 3 episodes in. It's been a lot of fun, action-packed. We have Traitors operating very, very optimally, which I love to see. We have Faithfuls operating very, very awfully, which I love to see. There's drama, there's intrigue. Kira has her angels. Netta's building her angels. Michael John is surviving. What more can you ask for? And people are fighting. The Faithfuls are fighting amongst each other. It's been phenomenal so far.
Yeah, it's like I would say I don't have any complaints. I guess we are losing some interesting people, but it's because like I find everyone on the cast interesting.
Yes.
So I was always gonna be sad.
Yeah.
I have no complaints.
No, same. I'm very, very much loving it. So now tell me, Scally, where can people find you? What are the projects you have going on?
People can find me on Twitter at Brian_Scally and on Twitch at twitch.tv/bscally, as well as over on the Free Agents podcast talking about the Challenge Season 40 with Matt Ligori. So go find me over there.
There we go. And as I said, at Pooyaism on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. That's where I am when I'm not podcasting. As far as podcasts go, 90 Day Fiance is running. I'm having a good time with that. I've got Sasha Joseph joining me this week as a guest. Masked Singer, myself and Liana. It's our last ride of Masked Singer before we drive into the sunset into other projects. So you can check that podcast out as well. And Big Brother, we are in finale week officially. I got a couple more in me before it's gone. So you can find me on those pods there. And is that everything, Monsieur Scally? I think it is. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out here with us. We'll be back with the exit soon. But until then, take care. Have a good one. Bye.